So every hard thing you want to do, setting a boundary, naming a need, coming out, asking for clarity, or risking honesty, depends on one internal question being answered first. Am I safe with myself if this doesn't go well? Because confidence becomes a form of performance. And with it, confidence becomes being really aware of your capacity. Where are you? That question right there is what this entire program, the Confidence Coming Out course and the toolkit, is built to answer. So let's start. So I want to start by telling you why I created this program in the first place. I didn't build a Confidence Coming Out course framework because I had confidence figured out, really. I built it because I was coming out, first to myself and then to others as polyamorous. And what I realized very quickly was that coming out wasn't just about naming my relationships or how many I had or what that looked like for me. It was about learning how to stay on my own side while doing something vulnerable, uncertain, and potentially disruptive to the connections I already had. I didn't need some big gesture. I didn't need someone telling me what the right move was. What I needed was a way to just do hard things without abandoning myself in the process, because that was exactly why I'd gotten to where I was, where I had closed down for so many years, not even realizing what the issue was. And I couldn't find a framework that taught me that all in one place. So I built one out of many different things that I've learned along the way. And here's what most confidence advice gets wrong. Your nervous system doesn't ask, is this authentic? Or is this aligned? It asks one question first. Is this safe for me? It answers that question before you even speak, before you set the boundary, before you hit send on the text or have that conversation. This is where the foundation of this work comes in, because we need to start deep in the foundation and in what creates safety for us. First, I'm going to talk about some principles of my work. And one of them is the reticular activating system. The acronym is RAS. And this is the filter in your brain that decides what you notice and what you ignore. How to affect the reticular activating system is what I tackle in the first part of the confidence toolkit, which you can get for free. Just go to raylifecoaching.com and go to the resources tab. If your system has learned through experience to scan for rejection, abandonment, or conflict, it will interpret vulnerability as danger, even when your conscious mind wants honesty. And that will then affect your behavior. That is your reticular activating system, that filter that affects what you think is possible. The second part of the foundational basis of my work is the ERs. One of the ERs is your emotion plus repetition. And the second one is just emotional regulation. So emotion plus repetition, your nervous system doesn't change through insight alone. It changes through repeated experiences of staying regulated and also connecting experiences with emotion and repetition then drives it home into a habit, into the autonomic system, into your subconscious, and sometimes even your unconscious mind. Change through repeated experiences and matching that with emotional regulation and connecting those two together will help you do hard things in a way that feels or looks confident. It will reveal confidence. And one conversation doesn't rewire your fear. Consistency does. And it doesn't mean that fear isn't available. For instance, one of my teachers says, if you've gone into a forest and came across a bear and it was a traumatic, scary event, the next time you have to go into the forest, you're going to be watching for that bear. But each time you go, if you alter your focus and direction and maybe have some tools on how to deal with that bear, you start to drive home a different way of looking at the forest, right? So if you just go in there with this traumatic event, that emotional experience that was really strong, it's going to drive it home in you, and your reticular activating system is going to say, bear alert. The more that you also focus on it, so that's repetition, the more you go into that forest, allowing yourself to just not focus or change your perception, you are also driving it home even more. Because each time you go into the forest, you're going to not even realize that you're seeing bears everywhere. If you go into the forest with some tools, and that's what the confidence toolkit is all about, is to help you reestablish the forest, not from the traumatic event, but through a different lens, start to activate reticular activating system in a different way. Then the more you do that and connect it to a positive emotional experience, you will drive it home in it. So that's where consistency, you can really use consistency to your advantage. So the third part is the familiar framework that I teach. We learn confidence or we reveal confidence through felt experience. The first part of it is the firsthand experiences, your auditory experiences, your modeled experiences. And those you can repeat over and over again in the way that you want, in a positive emotion, and that will drive it home even more. Tackling it in these three different ways will help you alter your RES as well. Not just doing it once, but doing it multiple different ways in a conscious, bringing it into a conscious level. Now, the I and the liar are, the I is your intuition. So what we're wanting to do in the familiar is to focus on the I of the familiar. However, when we're not conscious, when we're not bringing subconscious to conscious level, we tend to rely upon the liar part of the familiar. And the liar is leaving intuition abandoned repetitively. And so we tend to abandon our ability to take control over what we're allowing ourselves to see. And really, that's what confidence is, being able to be aware. I have control and power over some part of my life. And here is some tools to show you how to do that. So confidence isn't something you decide. It is already in you. It is available. But as we grow up, we learn from consistent action over and over again, repetition and emotion, certain things cover up our personal confidence and our ability to sense our intuition. I want to share something that came up recently on a discovery call with a prospective client. They asked a question that many of us have asked at some point. Should I contact my ex? They were scared that if they didn't reach out, they'd be sending the message that they didn't care or that they didn't want the relationship to get better. There was more to the story, but what stood out to me was this. They were actually asking because they didn't know what to do. They were asking because they didn't trust themselves to do anything without someone else telling them it was their right choice. And so I didn't answer the question, not because I was trying to withhold, not because I had the answer and refused to give it, but because when we're in the throes of doubt, the most important thing we can do is not actually get another person's opinion or experts. That can be helpful for sure, but it gets back to believing in ourselves. How do we know when something's true or false for us? And I think this is extremely important, right? With AI fooling us, with our own family telling us something that they think is true and may be true for them, isn't really true for us. For instance, LGBTQ plus polyamorous, we all have different ways of doing things or describing things. And so how do we know when something isn't really right? And I think it's important for us to know how to get back to that so that when we see something on TV and it is just a complete lie, how do we know what's right for us? And it gets back to believing in ourselves. Your problem is almost never that you don't know the right thing to do. Your problem is that you don't feel safe enough inside yourself. And I think that's pretty common. And it's not exactly a problem. I'm probably pretty sure a lot of us are feeling this way in some place in our life. To listen to your own knowing when the outcome is uncertain is very shared amongst us. And I want to be very clear here. I'm not speaking from a place of being perfectly sure of myself. That is definitely true. This work exists because I know what it's like to move through doubt, through the unknown, whether it be death, why something bad happens, or an ex stops talking to you, someone you were really close to all of a sudden changes their mind about something. Moments where there is no guarantee right? Like, okay, none of these answers or moves are going to be good. So how do I choose? And that's what this work is about. The confidence coming out course is, how do you know it's okay? When do you know for yourself? And the stuff I teach is really being able to tap back in to that Geiger system, that compass within. I'm not here to give you answers. I'm here to show you that you already have them. And more importantly, to help you learn how to feel them. Because I think a lot of us don't want to feel, right? Recognizing them and building a sense of security inside yourself so you can follow your own inner compass. This matters really deeply to LGBTQ plus and polyamorous folks like myself, because many of us learned early that safety came from pretending, staying flexible even when we're uncomfortable, not naming when something doesn't sit right with us, seeking advice instead of support because it feels safer than trusting ourselves, managing other people's reactions rather than staying honest about our own. So when we're faced with moments like navigating uncertainty with a partner or metamor or family member, realizing we don't actually need advice or an answer, but support in believing what we already sense is true. Wanting someone to help us stay steady in our doubt rather than tell us what to do. Our bodies brace, right? Not because we're confused. It's easy to stay in that confusion, but the reality is we're afraid of what might happen if we stop performing false agreement, unconsensual even to ourselves, abandoned agreement to ourselves, and start standing with ourselves. And this work teaches your nervous system something new. I don't have to pretend to be sure to be safe. I can be honest about my doubt and still stay with myself. And sometimes that means really sitting in that stew until you have gotten to that place of calming your nervous system and not rushing past it. I want to invite you to check out the free confidence toolkit on my website. It gives you simple tools to start noticing your body signals, emotional patterns, and self-abandonment loops before you try to change your behavior. And like I said, learning how to build that slowness into your life and eventually into your relationships is going to be key in being able to stand up for yourself. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want notifications or deeper support, scroll to the bottom of my website and join my newsletter. You get free tutorials, opportunities to try programs for free or at a deep discount, and a chance to build community with people dealing with exactly what you're dealing with. All right, let's get back to it. When your nervous system learns, I can notice what's happening. I don't have to rush. I don't have to perform to be okay. Confidence stops being about forcing yourself. It stops being defined in that way and starts being about your actual capacity, your capacity to hold, to pause, to notice, to choose, to stay present, even if the outcome is uncertain. And that's what this foundation builds. And I'm still not naming the first step yet of the confidence toolkit or the coming out course. Once you understand this, the step will land exactly where it needs to. Next week, I'll finally name the first step and show you how to practice it in real time. If you're polyamorous and located in Connecticut or nearby, I host a Connecticut Polyamorous Facebook group focused on communication, connection, and community building. You don't have to do the hard things alone. You can build community anywhere and have support where you are. And you don't have to abandon yourself to do that, or to come out. This is about coming out with yourself first. And I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me today. Bye.